as and when leaders, I take your name, we request you to kindly hop on. The audience awaits you. We request architect Aparna, Khemani, studio director Gensler, Mumbai to kindly come on up with a big round of applause. Architect Chhavi Lal, associate principal Perkins, Eastman, Mumbai. Big round of applause. Thank you so much, Miss Lal, Miss Renu, Misra from Dubai. Miss Misra, we request you to kindly come on up. Miss Misra was sitting right there yesterday when we played that game of who's traveled the maximum kilometers. If it wasn't for Hong Kong, you'd be winning. We request Miss Dhwani Talati-Padiyar, the director of CBRE, head of technical due diligence, ESG and sustainability consultants. Thank you so much, Ms. Dhwani, for your time. Requesting architect Prithi, Pendharkar, business practice leader, vice president, CannonDesign, Mumbai, to come on up quickly. The audience awaits you. Thank you so much, Ms. Prithi. Next, we'd like to call on stage Ms. Manisha Bhartia, business head, BDP, India, Urbanism, director, BDP. Thank you so much, Ms. Manisha. And of course, the woman with the toughest task, the moderator of the session, ensuring everything is smooth, effective, and they will be. I know there'll be no fights. Architect Supriya, Thyagarajan, principal and executive director, Perkins, Eastman, Mumbai. My God, what? Oh my, what a spread of leaders. Fantastic. Supriya, stage is all yours. Leaders are all yours, and audience members, we eagerly await. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, if you notice, all the women here represent international organizations. And I've been fortunate enough, one phone call and everyone agreed to be on this panel. So the business case for gender inclusivity has been made time and again. Leadership behavior, which is required to address future challenges, has been frequently shown by women. The next generation, Gen Z, who come into the workforce, for them, gender inclusivity or cultural diversity is going to be a basic expectation, right? So organizations that need to retain or even attract talent at that level would have to address their culture. So with that thought, I welcome you all to this super power-packed, super women panel, where these women have led the way, paved the path for the next generation. And I'm very fortunate to have worked with some of you, learned with some of you, and hopefully with this panel continue our friendship with some of you. So welcome, everyone. I'd like to have them introduce themselves. So why don't we do a round of introductions? Who you are, what you do, who you work for, whatever you want, however you want to describe yourselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aparna Khemani. I'm an architect. I'm from Mumbai. I've spent half my career in the US and half my career in India. And my role currently is studio director of Gensler's Mumbai office. And in my role, I would say, I'm responsible for everything that comes with the business. So from bringing in new work to making sure that we are delivering the highest quality of work, making sure that the team is growing, making sure that mentoring is happening in the office and everything is running very smoothly. Thank you.
Thanks, Aparna.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, it's such a pleasure to be here with friends and colleagues. So thanks to Supriya for bringing us all together. My name is Chhavi. I'm a principal at Perkins Eastman in the Mumbai studio. And I have been with Perkins Eastman in Mumbai since its early inception in India. My background is in architecture and urban design, and I lead a lot of large-scale and educational projects in India for the firm.
Hello everyone, and and I would say marhaba because I stay in Dubai, so that's welcome to all of you. My name is Renu Misra, and I have worked 26 years pretty much in different industries and different functions. I've worked across Middle East, Asia, India, had the opportunity to travel, see these countries, work with different people. At the core, I'm a Delhiite, born and brought up in Delhi, studied here, and most of my career has been in India. So I would say fortunate enough to see and compare the cultures across the world. And I consider myself to be a very approachable and a communicable person. I perfectly believe that you can have as much competence and experience, but it's really important to be able to say what you believe in. And this forum is really about that. I'm really thankful that Supriya decided to pick me in the group to speak my heart out today. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Renu. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Prithi Pendharkar. I'm an architect with over 20 years of experience in programming, designing, and execution of large-scale complex healthcare projects, science and technology, and higher education projects. So that's my passion. I thrive on the complexity and excitement that these projects generate. In my current role, I serve as the business practice leader of the Mumbai office of CannonDesign. A little bit about CannonDesign. CannonDesign is a 100-plus-year-old global design firm that's headquartered in the US. We have 1,200 plus employees that are spread across 18 offices, mainly in North America, US, Canada, and one office in India. So we have a 70-person office in Mumbai. And as a business practice leader for the Mumbai office, I take care of the business functions as well as the operations for the team here. I focus a lot of my time on management and mentoring of my project teams that are delivering projects all across the world. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Preeti.
Hello, everyone. My name is Manisha Bhartia. I'm an architect, master planner with more than 2 decades of experience. I spent some part of my career in the UK with BDP, and I started the BDP studio in India almost 10 years back. Currently, my role, besides being an urbanism director with a global practice, I am the business head of BDP's businesses in India. We have a studio in Delhi and an upcoming studio in Mumbai. My role really focuses around a lot what the other ladies have mentioned. So a lot of design, a lot of mentoring, managing the business, business development, managing people, and then also master planning. So I make sure I have time for design and work on. And I've had the fortune to work on some very interesting projects in these last 2 decades.
Thanks, Manisha.
Hi, I'm audible, I hope. Thank you, Supriya. Thank you, Vedesha. Very happy to be here today. I'm Dhwani. I'm an architect, urban planner, mother of 2 wonderful girls, director, CBRE South Asia. I currently head the ESG Sustainability Technical Due Diligence for Portfolio Pan India. I've, in my various roles, cities, countries, in the last 20 years of my work experience, I'm proud to say I've aced in every position that I've been in its own time. And I'm super ambitious. I love traveling. I love cooking with my girls in the weekend. And I'm a proud feminist as well. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, very, very exciting. And thank you everyone for your introductions. And I think one of the things we missed about our work is also managing clients. I think that takes up a large part of our time. So why don't we start with Chhavi and Manisha. Manisha, you've been with BDP for over 18 years. You started with them in London, then moved with them to open the office in Delhi in India. Chhavi, you've been with Perkins Eastman for over 12 years, from its inception, as you mentioned, in Mumbai. Clearly, there is something about these firms that you all completely believe in, or the platform that the firm has offered you to grow as women, as leaders, as professionals. So a little bit, starting with you, Manisha, about why BDP and then following with you, Chhavi.
I think in your question, you partly answered my question. So when I was working at BDP in London, I would be probably about 24, 25 when I joined. And I loved the work environment in London. I loved the culture of the studio. I loved the people I worked with and the kind of really interesting exposure I got. And I went up to my CEO and said, I want to start an office in India. And he said, okay. I was 27. He took a big risk, and here I am. So I've been with BDP in India because, in a way, it's my baby. I started the firm's studio here. Now, globally, BDP has 19 studios across the world. India, Abu Dhabi, Shanghai. There are quite a few studios in the Asia-Pacific region as well. But India was one of the first few international studios that started. And then whilst I've been here, I would say that I've been in a fortunate enough position to shape the work culture for BDP in India. So I think it's a great place to be. I have some colleagues here who should clap a bit louder when they hear this. I think it's a great place to be. It's a good work culture, gives us, we give good work-life balance. We've had some very, very interesting projects that we worked on, and we pay well. So all in all, it all adds up.
That's really great. And I think one thing which was very interesting when we were discussing was you mentioned that for the first 10 years of your time here in BDP, you were working part-time. But your name and BDP's name was synonymous. If we knew BDP, we knew Manisha. And to be able to do that, working part-time, building a studio, building a culture, growing the business, you've only started working full-time over the last 2 years, which is commendable. And that's clearly shows, that you can do it if you really want to, balance your work life. But the company has obviously trusted immensely and given you that platform.
Yes, that's really correct, because I decided to work part-time. I had 2 young kids, and I wanted to give them time as well. And this was pre-Teams, pre-flexible working. So, once you sign off, you sign off. But WhatsApp existed, and I still continued to keep providing guidance to the team even while I was at home. I'd like to say, I think if the only grouse I have, they were very accommodating. I was being paid 50%, but I was still working well more than that.
Chhavi, what about you?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of common synergies, but truly, long-term career growth really requires a holistic growth for an individual, right? You want a learning curve in your career, but at the same time, you want it to be sustainable in your personal growth. Only then a long-term growth can be sustained. The second thing is architecture and the nature of work that we do. You can only see a project built in half a decade, optimistically. So it is a long-haul profession. I think Perkins Eastman has offered me all of this. Perkins Eastman is very invested in his people. Like Manisha said, there is a lot of trust in enabling people to do what they want to do, in accommodating them in their different stages in life, because they want to retain talent. So to do what it takes to retain talent, and helping them and providing them, empowering them to grow in avenues they want to grow. So there is no set path for you. It's as much you can do, as much you can take up, at a pace you can take up. I think that for me is very enabling. And setting up, working in the Mumbai studio from the time when it was about 10 people to now close to 40, it's very rewarding to see how the place has grown. The team is ours, like Manisha said, you feel it like it's your baby. Everyone who has been associated, past and present, people still stay in touch. it's a family. That is very endearing, that is the culture, and nobody has said it in a way, these are not things that are spoken of or told about. It just comes about in the way we work, in just the way we do things. I think for anyone to sustain a growth through a career, these things become very important, because otherwise then you're always looking out for what is the next thing. You want that steady growth, you want to be able to do other things. I have been able to pick up so many of my passions and interests that I could never do through student years or early career years with insane work hours, only being with Perkins Eastman. So that's what I feel like, sticks to me. And even now, after more than 12 years, there's not a single day where I wake up and feel like, oh my God, am I going for a job? I'm not, because I'm going to a place which is an extension of me.
That's great. And I think one of the key things I feel, and I'm pretty sure it's common amongst all the firms here, is one, they are very entrepreneurial. So it all depends on you and how much you want to do, especially in a market like India, where everything is about figuring out, right? But also the ability to fail. I mean, there was always a scope to fail, because it was never a pressure to always succeed. So we have failed. We've done projects that haven't been successful, but I think the platform that you have, that you can fail, but it's okay, go for it as long as you want to go for it. I think that's very important. Coming to you, Aparna and Preeti, y'all started, if I have to divide, 50% of your career has been in the US and 50% in India. You worked with HOK in the US and then came to India and have again worked for multiple international firms. Aparna, you worked for Flad Architects for 13 years and now another 13 years, as I heard yesterday here. So one of the key roles I think we play as people who work for international offices is the role to bridge the gap between global best practices and what we can do in India. So what kind of challenges do you face while you're doing it? So Aparna, you can.
So I'd start off with, yes, you have global standards and you have global best practices, but it doesn't mean that you can just lift something and place it out of context, right? So there are many things that we've been doing in India which have far superseded anything internationally, and we end up giving it up to adopt something that is completely foreign, right? So having the ability to adopt these standards in a contextual way, I think is a challenge, because you have to bring your clients with you on that, saying that, this is happening there, but this is the reason why it's successful there. And to take the best of that, but also take the best of what we have here. I think that offers the best solution. So I would say that is a challenge, and it's a journey to get people, to see that, especially the clients. So that would be one challenge for sure.
Preeti?
Yeah, I totally agree with Aparna. And as an international firm, working in the Indian ecosystem has been challenging, at the same time very rewarding. So when I came back to India after 10 years of working in the US, I had to unlearn a lot of things for good reason, because this is a different geography, it's a different context, different culture, and you need to be sensitive to that. So yeah, totally agree with you. Just to add on to that, two things come to the top of my head if you talk about challenges. One is I felt like the role of the architect, the roles and responsibilities of the architect is not very well understood. And second is that leads to grossly insufficient amount of time that is spent on the design process. So these two things, so we have ended up spending a lot of time educating our clients and all of the stakeholders that are involved to stress the importance of documentation as much as your end product. the whole process is also important, because how you get there is important, because you're actually building the framework, you're building the foundation for something that's going to probably last for 50 years, 60 years. So just an example to put things in perspective, because we have been listening to other speakers as well talk about the business side of things. So say a project that is 300 square feet, 300,000 square feet, that's 3 lakh or 5 lakh square feet, 450 bed hospital project in India. That will probably last for about 50, 60 years, 300 plus crores project budget. And it is likely going to impact a lot of lives that are surrounding that hospital, the community. It's going to provide healthcare to millions of people in the decades to come, and also offer job opportunities. So a project that is going to have such a huge impact on the community, it's not just an architectural landmark, right, that you're creating, you're actually doing something which is going to create an impact on the community. And how much time do you think generally, we are given to complete the design process? 3 months, 4 months tops. So that is the discrepancy that, we try and highlight to our clients. But it all starts with talking about our profession, so that, people understand what we do and the value that we bring to the whole process. We are generally the collaborator, and we are the bond or glue that brings the whole team together, and we work very collaboratively with all of the stakeholders. This is especially important in a healthcare project or a science and tech project, where our user groups are performing really important work, either related to healthcare or life sciences, etc. So, just to be considered as an equal partner in the whole scheme of things is very important.
That's so true. And I think one of the biggest roles we play right now is consensus building, right, between different stakeholders. And that's something that's not taught in schools, but it's one of the biggest things we end up doing, whether it's healthcare or education or government or any work that we do, is how do we bring stakeholders together. And that role of an architect is actually almost, starting from the beginning, being that champion for that project. So yeah, these are all challenges, but like you said, the impact is so high that it's very, very rewarding. Renu, coming to you. You have, in a way, kind of done the reverse, right? You have started in India, started a multi-billion dollar, been the CFO of Groha India, then you were placed in the Middle East to start the business there, grew it to $500 million. So for you, it was a reverse. These guys have come from the US to India, you've gone from India to the Middle East. What kind of biases did you carry? And how has that shaped your leadership or your style of leadership? Because you've had the opportunity to sort of look at the reverse side of things.
I think it's the bias comes in from the way we were brought up, right? So if I worked 26 years, I've worked between finance and business. So I think the biggest bias that probably I had was that, okay, these are women-centric roles and these are not, what women ever ventured into. When I was the CFO and I was offered a business head role, I think that was life-changing, because I also took the plunge, right? Not that I was trained for it. Yes, I'm an MBA and, I'm a business manager. And the previous session was talking about how it is important to learn business, right? But then that does not automatically make you a head of business, right? So jump in, learn, travel, and then you realize that it is not gender-centric, right? The deliverables are the same. I'm responsible for a profit and loss. I'm responsible for nurturing a team, from growing the business, and obviously generating profits, right? So that's the goal. And that was the biggest bias breaker for me being in that role. Then when I was moving from India to Middle East, that was even more interesting, because it was within 3 weeks. Groha decided that they needed a CEO for MENA, which is 49 countries. So I'm a woman, I don't speak the language, and I don't belong to that culture, right? And I had 3 weeks to pack my bags and move. Obviously, I didn't move with my family. That wasn't the best part of it. But the best part of it is that you are in it, right? So when I jumped into the role, my biases about culture, knowing the language, being a man, or let's say being among them, was broken because I realized that everybody was warm, respectful, they meant business, and you had to make that effort to be a part of the culture, which we always do, right? As North Indians, we are trying to work in West India, or as a Mumbaikar, you're working in Bangalore or in Chennai. We are all doing that every day, but we just carry those biases. And I would say that that experience had made me a very different leader. I think I'm much more inclusive. It is not about gender. It is about inclusivity of thought, of ideas, of execution. And you do not think where it's coming from, which level, right? And you're talking to a salesperson in Algeria, and you're also talking to somebody in Saudi Arabia and in Turkey who speak completely different languages. But then, they come up with great execution plans. So that was one of the eye-opening. Second thing is more sensitivity, because we always think that, oh, we have worked so hard to reach here. You have to meet many more people to realize they come from war-torn countries, displaced from their families, and still so passionate about what they do. It becomes your second nature to be empathetic, because you do not know who's coming from where. And that's a very big learning, and I would give it to this experience that I can carry this for my life and probably do more in life, right, in terms of impacting other people. So that was what I would say personal experience.
That's amazing. And you brought out a very important point, which is empathy. That's one of the key sort of leadership skills we need to have. I mean, we need to cultivate. And I was telling you, I've been fangirling you since last night, and I'm so impressed with the work you've done. And it's amazing. 18 different offices, 30 countries in 6 months for initial time in Middle East. I mean, that's commendable. And to bring everyone along and grow a business of that scale, that's really good. Congratulations. We have a lot to learn from you.
Thank you so much.
Dhwani, next to you. You're running a large P&L for ESG and technical due diligence for CBRE. I have seen you at work, I mean, in the short time over the last couple of months, with a room full of men and being in a super commanding position, very comfortable in your skin. What are the kind of biases or subconscious biases that you carry to work? And how do you plan to address it, or how have you started to address it?
To begin with, Renu, very impressive journey. Coming back to you, Supriya, I haven't always been like this. I have to be very candid and honest about it. And I have a couple of examples, but there's one particular that comes to my mind. This was about 10 years ago when I had recently moved into Kolkata. Again, like Renu mentioned, a very different work culture from Mumbai, or the office before that I was in Paris. Completely different work culture, different language, different work timings. I mean, they would have a siesta time, and I couldn't comprehend. But the most interesting bit and change that happened was that I was given a team of 4, 1 mechanical engineer, 3 civil engineers, all 4 men, all 10 years elder to me and reporting into me. Even culturally, for the East, that was a bit odd. And you have to think what I was imagining at the back of my head. I'm a woman, I don't know their language, I don't know how they work, and they've been in the system for more than 5 years. They've been in the organization, so they're in their comfort zones. And I come like an outsider. So, believe or not, but I had these biases in my head more than what reality must have been. And for the first few weeks, we would sit in meetings, I would have my observations, but I would not conflict. I would go back and write emails back, for whatever observations that I had, because I felt I was scared. I was a little less confident. I was maybe shy. And there were so many things in my head which I wanted to sort out. And then one day I went to the CEO, and I had worked with him before, so we had a sort of a camaraderie there. So I went to him and I said, maybe can I have like a different team to work with? I see that maybe they're not comfortable with me, I'm not comfortable with them. And what he said really stayed back with me. He said, if you've already identified that this is what's bothering you, why not just go ahead and talk about it and laugh about it? Maybe they have a point of view that's going to help you get over it. So I did exactly that. We had an MEP, BOQ meeting, like a review meeting after that. And I went to the meeting room and I said, I've never worked on a stormwater management system before. I might be zero at this, but I want to know what you know, and I'm much younger to you. I've not worked on the scale of projects that you have, and there's so much to learn. But I can tell you one thing, I can make business sense out of it. I know that we have to bring this down by 50%, so let's work backwards from there. We made the impossible happen. We got all the accolades after that for that project. It's an industrial park. It's up and running and in a wonderful condition in Siliguri. But what happened that day really, really made an impact. Even today, when and ageism is a barrier I have faced over and over again, and it's not stopped. I mean, I'm probably the youngest director in my country. In my company in India, and I still have these moments when I'm in the boardroom and I feel a little awkward. I wear heels because I want to feel tall. I'm being honest here. And it gives me a sense of confidence. And as candid as I can be here, it helps to talk about it. It helps to laugh about it. And that's the best way to address a subconscious one. Identify. Second, hold the bull by the horns. Talk about it. There shouldn't be any awkwardness about any sort of bias, whether it's ageism, gender, anything be it.
And I've had the privilege to sort of see you grow through college into a professional, and I must say, it has been such a journey. I remember you as this very quiet, introverted girl in architecture school, nerdy, still nerdy, but come into your own, right? And I'm pretty sure all of these consistently facing and talking about your own biases has made you a much more confident person. So thank you for sharing that. One of the biases as women in the built environment or architecture we often face is we are either assumed to be running an interior design practice or a really small scale practice, and I know all these women here are working on mega projects. So I want to ask Aparna, Chhavi and Prithi, and Manisha, of course, because I know the project you're going to talk about as well. There one project that you think has been pivotal in defining your career, or one project that has taught you a lot, that you've walked away with a great learning and has defined the leader you've become today. So we can just go around. Aparna.
Sure. So this is way back actually when I was not even 30. I was probably 26. And September 11th, 2001 was the day that we kicked off design for this project. So it was a, 500,000 square foot biotech lab project in Indianapolis. And, that was day one of the project. And I worked with a very senior designer, starting with, the first line that we drew for the project. And then I worked 6 years full-time on that project. So I worked with the senior designer defining the concept. Then I moved on to be mentored by somebody who knew how to design an envelope for a building. So I learned how to detail a facade and what are the real factors for that. Then I moved on to work under the project architect, right? And she taught me, however good your design is and however well you've thought of everything, if you don't document it properly, it's not going to be built right. So I really did the rigor, setting up sheets, figuring out how we work on this. Then I moved on to interior design. And I work with senior interior designers to really understand who are the users, what is the experience going to be, and how do we work on giving them the best campus. Then I also work with the lab planners, sitting in on interviews, to figure out the data sheets for various rooms and all of the MEP, how much voltage for this equipment and the balance scales and all of that. And then the project went into construction administration. The team of 50 people dwindled down to just 3, right? And I did full-time CA on the project, got mentored by a very senior guy in the field. And when I left the firm, he actually gave me a toolbox with, all of the tools, which I still have here. And it was an amazing project. That's where I even got to learn from the project manager. Anytime there was a change request by the client, he's like, Aparna, why don't you price it, right? And he said, how long do you think you'll take to do it? So I said, maybe 4 hours. He said, okay, then you double it, and then you double it again, and still you'll be short on the money, right? So it was an amazing experience. It was 6 years of really hard work, a really tough client, but even the client mentored because, he held you accountable at every step. And I think I would encourage everyone that in early career, right, get well-rounded experience, stick with it, go through all stages of a project. And I think even today, that project is very close to my heart.
Yeah, and like Chhavi was saying, it takes about half a decade to a decade to see a project through. And that kind of resilience and the initial learning of being fully rounded is an invaluable experience to get at such an early stage in your life. So, Chhavi, over to you.
I can totally relate with what you said, Aparna. I think for me, my formation years, I have been very fortunate to work with architects who have set a very good foundation for me in terms of design, excellence of detailing and delivering it. And that has been very handy for me to be able to do forward. So there have been experiences on many projects where I have learned things. But if I have to talk of one, it would definitely be the longest standing project that I have been fully involved in. And that is Ashoka University. It has been 10 years now. We have delivered the first part of the campus, which is 25 acres, 1.2 million square feet. And of course, working very closely with Supriya and some other colleagues. But that was a turning point in my career. The reason I say that is because it's not so much the technical skills that I needed to do the job. I knew what to do, but it's more the people skills. It's more about going out there, things that you spoke of earlier, Dhwani. How do you build consensus? How do you talk to various stakeholders? Make sure that the vision that you have, which is on a drawing board, which may get translated many years later, they are able to buy into, they are able to see through that vision and are able to go along with you. And in that, there are many different stakeholders. There are founders, there are faculty members, students, project managers, consultants who come with very different perspectives. So how do you make sure that design is always the conversation on the table? How do you prioritize design while listening to everybody's needs? These were things that I had never done before. And the personality that I come with, it doesn't easily come to me either. So it was very overwhelming for me to do these things. And the only way I could do it is as simple as just showing up. Just being there and, facing what comes to you, showing up and being present, taking ownership of the work you have done, and to relentlessly talk about it and address issues that may be there. And I must say, I couldn't do this by myself. I have done this because I have the support, unwavering support of a team that is there, at every level, at senior management level in the firm, who understand the importance of this project, of team members. Renu, I know you recently posted in one of your posts about how you have a tribe, right? you need that tribe, right? You need that tribe to be able to go out there with full confidence and to be able to do what you must do. So yeah, I think that's been my steepest curve, I will say, learning curve.
And when you stand in the middle of a campus that's fully occupied, thousands of students, completely bustling, night and day, it's a complete, it's a job satisfaction you can't imagine.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. In fact, it's so much more, right? There are so many spaces and places, the way they are used, it's way beyond what we had conceived and imagined. So in some way, it's exactly like, having a child who grows up and does so much more and you feel so proud and so happy. It's exactly that feeling. It's a pleasure being on campus now.
That's great. Prithi?
Yeah, totally agree with both of you. And, two projects come to mind. Of course, healthcare, because of my passion for the field. The first one is TMC, that's Tata Medical Center, Cancer Hospital in Calcutta, phase 1 as well as phase 2, which CannonDesign has done. And we were again associated with the client for more than a decade. It's a long project that we were involved in. I was personally involved in phase 2 when the language was already set by the architects, and I truly understood how collaborative the process was. So we had a few offices in the US that were involved, and they were collaborating with us in India. And we had to kind of somehow magically bring the best of both worlds and deliver it for the project, because it was Ratan Tata's mission, personal mission, to provide cancer care to that part of the country. So right now, I'm proud to say that, when you actually look at the fully grown hospital campus, which is about 450 beds, it's become a beacon of hope for the entire region, not only for the state of Bengal, but also Northeast India and neighboring countries like Bangladesh. So there are people who come from far and wide to get treatment from this facility. So what it really taught me was how to be inclusive in your design and how to be equitable. So it's not a particular set of users or particular doctors that you're designing for. It's a whole spectrum of users that you're designing for. There are people who come to that hospital with 4 or 5 family members, and they camp on the site. So there was another agency that designed something called Premashraya, which gives refuge and which puts up families of these patients. So it was a whole ecosystem that was actually created. We were designing the hospital bit, but there were other agencies who were designing the other bits. And, top class, world class cancer care in Calcutta, which also focuses not only on care, but also on research and education. And when you see all of the spaces being used, and, we did want it to feel like, it belongs there. So it has actually become a very strong, identifiable landmark in Calcutta that people can identify with. We've used a lot of local materials and, used Indian concepts like, creating courtyards, using indigenous species of plants, and creating a lot of fenestrations so that, people are able to enjoy views and access to nature. So all of these things, when it's actually being used, you get to see it, and there is so many lessons learned that you carry it, throughout your life. And of course, the other project is AIMS that we all worked together on. So that was something, I can't even begin to describe.
Yes, I remember that was 7 offices. We were working across 4 time zones. And like you said, we had to 7.5 million square feet to be designed in 2 months.
Yeah, so 3,000 beds
3,000
that
beds.
had to be designed in, it was in a very short period of time. But I learned a lot of my leadership skills during that period. So maybe the Tata project helped me unlearn a lot of biases that I may have come back with, coming into the Indian architecture scene. But AIMS was like a leadership training, uh, quick, rapid course in leadership training.
I
So
think it was for a lot of us, and I think in spite of, and we can say this, extremely difficult client, very demanding, I think the single focus of delivering the best healthcare design we could do with all our consultants, with all the experience that you all had on TMC, bringing that, I think the single focus that we had to do the best we can do with against all odds kept us going, and kept us going for a good 2 years consistently on that project, and all our consultants were aligned to that. And so in some ways it was very encouraging, very draining for all of us, but leadership, I'm pretty sure we had like crash course in leadership in that.
yeah, and it taught me one important lesson is, which is resilience, that you need to be able to spring back. I mean, there are going to be successes and failures in your journey, but how do you spring back from that and, again go back to work the next day is what that project really taught me. So yeah.
Manisha.
Thanks. I think for me, it's difficult to choose. There have been so many. I mean, from the time when I first started working in the UK and some of the projects when I worked on old towns in the UK, regeneration of them, they've really stayed with me. But if I had to choose something, I think I would say IIT Mandi. We won it as part of an international competition. We won it in 2011. 2010 was when we first opened our studios. So in a way, I wrote the competition report. I stayed up nights for 2 weeks while we were writing it. I designed the master plan. And I worked, it was part of an interdisciplinary team. I worked with colleagues who did the landscape, who did the architecture. And what's really gratifying, it's taken us a decade, but the campus is built as per the competition winning master plan. What we produced in those 2 weeks, it's built as per that. We haven't changed very much. We looked at the way, we really looked at the materials we could use. It was for a PSU organization. We wanted to make sure we were using materials that were robust and affordable, but at the same time sensitive to the fact that it's right in a very sensitive ecological zone. We had 500 acres. We only used 150. We kept the rest of the forest, how we remediated the forest to make sure there are no forest fires, how wildlife can't move through the campus, the water movement. And we looked at Himachal vernacular architecture. We didn't want to build something that didn't belong. Even if it's an international practice that's coming up here and building an education campus, it has to belong to the region. So our architecture was a derivation of the local vernacular Himachal architecture. And I think it's come out so well. So when you visit, it's a play, it's very soft muted colors with soft muted pastel shades with pops of color, very earthy, and it just belongs. It's sitting on the side of a hill and you just feel it's right there. I think in terms of what it taught me patience. The contract said 5 years. We've been working on it for 10 years. It taught me patience of how to deal with PSUs, government and academicians. And I think as master planners, consensus building is something we do already. So I was very glad to have that opportunity. And if I could mention one more project, I think that's something that I worked on very recently. So for me, it's very fresh. We won the master plan for the new Noida airport. When the clients hired us, they knew that the team, my team, we've never done an airport before. They knew that. And despite knowing this, they hired us and they've been so happy with the output. We've had such a huge learning experience. So I'd never master planned an airport before. I had to learn airside, landside. I had to dig down deep into the AAI norms and what that means. And also I had to design a master plan that could be flexible, because at the end of the day, the airport city will not be built out for at least 10, 15 years. So how do you design a master plan that can accommodate the needs of all the various concessionaires as and when they come? The markets may change. And we started this project when Delhi experienced the second wave of COVID. So I actually physically only met the client 6 months later. The entire project was done remotely from Google Forms, online meetings, getting consensus building. And I think the culmination was when we got a chance to present it at the Passenger Terminal Expo a year later. For us, it was one really long, intensive learning experience. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter at what stage of your career you're in. I thought I had enough experience in master planning, and there's always a learning opportunity. So wherever you are, whatever stage you're in, there's always something to learn.
That's so true, and I think we've had the privilege to go to IIT Mandi, and we just couldn't, we were overwhelmed with how difficult the place is to reach in the first place, because it took us a flight to Chandigarh, then driving down, then coming back to build a campus in that location. It's quite a feat, so really congratulations on that project. I'm going to I'm the passion about projects, the passion about doing the work you do. It's pretty evident in the conversations we've had, but there's another passion that is common amongst all of y'all, is the passion to mentor and empower young talent. Each of your firms, or even each of you personally, have been involved in initiatives that help that cause. So just very quickly, because I'm pretty sure we're running out of time, starting from you, Dhwani, reverse, what is that one thing, one initiative, and what do you want to talk about that initiative, and let's go around the table.
For the younger talent coming into the industry, I think don't compartmentalize. We live in a society and times today where everything from economy to climate, everything is dynamically changing, changing as quickly as every year. And it's extremely important to be resilient, extremely important to be adaptive to what is happening. You can't stick to one style, one role, one function, one city. You've got to be very mobile.
I would agree with that. I think it's very important to be agile. I think for young talent coming out of universities, you've got to listen. There is a sense of, when you're straight out of university, and especially this generation, there's a sense of a lot of knowledge that is already there at their fingertips, and you feel like you know quite a bit. But when you're coming into an organization, listen, learn to listen. And I think that's probably something that would stay with them going forward.
Yeah, I would agree with what Manisha said earlier, that every project and every opportunity is a learning opportunity. So our firm truly believes in that. And the two of the initiatives that I'm very proud about are mentoring and continuing education, which are both like two facets of learning. So we do have a lot of opportunities where younger generation gets mentored. And I need to add very quickly that there is also reverse mentoring that's happening, where more senior people are being mentored by younger generation, because as we know, a lot is changing in the world, and we need to be aware of, the scripts, the latest scripts, AI and all of the other technological advances, and how that's going to impact our field. Because if we want to be relevant, we need to totally understand what's happening. So yeah, mentoring is number one. And continuing education is, we make sure that we are providing people opportunities to, go through LEED, that's, leadership in energy efficient buildings, EDAC. So these are all the different credentials that we actually urge our people to strive for and go after. And then it's not just achieving those credentials, it's also making sure that you maintain that through continuing education credits. So both of these things, so that we are able to very actively train the second and the third generation of leaders, because that's something that's I see lacking in many firms. They have a lot of talent, but no one is actively thinking about the second and the third generation. If you really want to continue the legacy, you need to think about that.
Renu, you've had some wonderful initiatives. So,
I think we had, this was personal because I had two things. One is obviously the students, and corporates have to be, I mean, you all are in a functional competence field, right? We are running a corporate. When you're running a corporate, and openness to having students and not just wait for them to have qualifications and experience was important. So we started a student program, and this was in the Middle East. So we started in different countries, in different functions. And in a year's time, we had at least 70 students who were working with us in different geographies, in different functions. And we were very happy that after a year, we could at least, recruit because they were interested, and we found them talented to get them on board. I mean, that's something which we did even for plumbing community, because we are in building material. We could train them, we set training centers for them. And that was more towards licensing and certifying their work, because all of you know that plumbing is a very, it's least respected, probably one of the functions, right, in the whole industry. So those initiatives are supported by the organization. But one which is very close to my heart is Voice of Women. And I personally felt that women in general are not the most confident or communicative or approaching, right, when it comes to their career, when it comes to their priorities or any challenges. And I think it was a forum for them to be trained to learn how to have difficult conversations, even with your managers, right? I want to move to this role, I want to move to this function, I have a work-life balance issue and I need support, right? And also about what do they think, right? I mean, providing them just a network of other women to build a tribe, and also be able to, learn from each other and be able to support, because that's what we need. That's what we didn't do when we were growing up. And there is one-to-one mentoring, there's one-to-one coaching, but that's very targeted to high potential performers. It's not for everyone in general. So all women to have equal opportunities start from when you believe that that's equal, right? And it's not about only diversity and hiring more women. What are you doing towards equity? What are you doing towards inclusion? And really doing towards it. Providing them at least a platform to say, I want this, and can the organization help me achieve this, right? So that was very close to my heart, and I still carry that very passionately. Even if I'm out of the organization, I'm still working with a lot of women in one-to-one mentoring and continuing that.
Wonderful. Chhavi?
So I have been associated with Perkins Eastman's mentoring program, and I'm also part of a social organization called Mentor Together, which looks at students from underprivileged backgrounds and helps them mentor to feel more confident and take the right decisions in their professional lives. I think for me, both have been extremely enriching. We have learned a lot from our mentors, professionally about, how to create visions, how to follow a design process, how to weave in narratives. And these are things that professionally we try to, give. Hello?
Still working? Yeah.
Is it working? Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing that we try to give forward. I think, Manisha is right, because a lot of young architects these days come in with a very quick solution because they think software can solve their issues or Pinterest can solve their issues. But we want to, tell them that instead, listen to your site. Listen to the people who will be there. Listen to the context that there. And there's so much design thinking that will evolve from there. On a personal mentoring thing, I think it's completely different because each person is different. Their background is different, their situation is different. So it's more about listening. Sometimes they just want a sounding ear. Sometimes they may be lost and they want a direction. So I think on a personal mentoring front, it's just about being there to see what your mentee really needs from you. And I must say it has been very enriching because a lot of these relationships grow over years, you know. So it may start with more a mentor-mentee thing, but then like Preeti said, it also becomes reverse eventually. You learn so much from them. So yeah, I think mentoring is like one of the most beautiful aspects of career development.
Yeah, couldn't agree with all of these wonderful ladies here. I think one piece of advice for young professionals is have patience, right? Stick with it. Try and be like a sponge. Whatever you do, believe me, one day you're going to realize that you thought it was nothing, but you have actually gained so much from it. Any mundane little thing, right? The second thing, I couldn't agree more, that mentoring is actually a two-way street. It's a meeting of minds, and each one of us, no matter where we are in the journey of our career, have so much to give, right? So just like my career has been shaped by amazing mentors, right? I think each one of us should just share whatever we have learned, and when that communication is open, that's when the magic happens.
Thank you. I think mentoring was sort of common through and also us learning from other people. But one point you made, Renu, is we focus always on high performers. But I'm pretty sure in your career you have had to deal with underperformers. So how have you dealt with underperformers? And I would like to ask you and Dhwani, because I'm in your journey, I'm sure there has been ways. And how, as a woman, has it been of an advantage dealing with some of these, or your leadership style to deal with this?
I think I would put it on a yardstick saying that sometimes it's circumstantial and not its competence or function or experience. If you've put a resume and you've been hired, you're 70% there. I mean, I would say that you're not lying, right? It can be about the environment, it can be about your manager, it can be about your team, it can be overwhelming to join from a small organization to a bigger. So there can be various circumstances. So you put people on a project. It's important that they are inspired by their team members of what to do, how to do, and also learn and contribute. The second one would be that I would put a buddy, right? We used to call it a buddy program, and who's coaching and mentoring this person constantly, and also training them on the culture and the expectations of the organization. Because it may be that the person has some issues at home and not exactly at workplace, right? So that's why these buddy programs can help get people back on track. But then there is obviously a formal process of a performance improvement plan, right? You always put that in place. So you put all of this and give an opportunity. But if we know that the performance is not up to the mark, you put a time scale, and then the news is not very great, right? Then you're talking about an exit. And even though it does happen that people do move, maybe they're not fit in your organization. I'm sure you've also seen that, right? Right? It's maybe the fit is not there, but they are thriving in another. So, provide an opportunity, give a listening ear, be the sounding board. That's very important. But then I'm sure it can turn around.
Very quickly, Dhwani, because we have to wrap up.
Absolutely. No, I agree with everything that she said. And in fact, I believe there is nothing like underperformance. No one wants to underperform, right? If you're here for a job, you want to perform. I think it's a matter of two things. One is the drive, and the second is the fitment. When I say drive, there are different things that drive different people. For some, it's the status, designation. For some, it's the money. For some, it's the role that you're doing. And so it's important for leaders to identify that drive and be able to provide it. That's one of the things that we do at CBRE as well. The second thing is the fitment. You might think that that person is suited excellent for a certain role, but that's not how that candidate looks at it. So and it's also evolving. For the first 3 years, maybe that role is perfect for that person, but that person evolves with a lot, everything that happens in the society and personal life. So as leaders, again, you need to keep evaluating if you have to change that role to bring that drive back. So I think underperformance is just, a small bump in the road, and it's not judgmental about what that person does or does not.
Well, thank you. I think, thank you for the panel. It's been wonderful. I've certainly had a great time conversing with you last evening, this morning, and continued our conversation. I think some of the key things we've learned is be patient, listen. I think a lot of people have said, I think Renu, you've always said, don't work so hard. You will get where you need to get. I kept hearing that from you today as well. That don't be in a rush to get where you are. You will get there if you have the drive. So thank you. Wonderful panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. A big round of applause for our superstars. We now request Ms. Vartika Dwivedi, the founder of Wade Asia, to kindly come on up and present the rainbow of leaders right in front of us, presenting a token of our appreciation.